Business time now. I'm joined for that here in the studio by Charles Pellegrin. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Kat.
We're beginning today with the news that Uber has fired 20 staff. This after they carried out an investigation into claims of harassment.
Absolutely. The company behind the world's biggest ride-hailing app explained the sackings were the result of sexual harassment and bullying, among other things. The investigation into these claims started after a former female employee wrote a blog post detailing her experience working at the firm and the fact that her complaints of sexual harassment were ignored. A report on the company's culture as a whole has also been commissioned. Those findings should be made public next week. While some changes have already been enacted, 2 women have been hired to high-profile positions this week, but all in all, about 36% of the Uber workforce is female and about 15% of women hold technology positions. Uber has also seen a backlash in recent months over what observers have called aggressive corporate tactics. They're also facing a lawsuit from Google for allegedly stealing technology for self-driving cars.
Right, a lot of troubles for Uber at the moment. Can you give us any more detail on the kind of claims that exist against the company at the moment?
Well, there are 250 claims that are being investigated at the moment. These include 54 for discrimination in the workplace, 47 specifically for sexual harassment, and 45 for unprofessional behavior, and 33 for bullying. Well, Uber has already acted on some of those claims. In addition to the 20 staff who were fired, 31 others were put in training and 7 were issued a final warning. 57 claims are still under review.
Gosh, that's going to keep them busy for quite a long time, isn't it? Let's take a look right now at how the Asian markets are faring this hour.
Well, we're seeing a mixed picture around Asian indices this morning. Investors staying cautious ahead of a number of events scheduled for Thursday. The elections in the UK, the Comey testimony to the Senate in the US, and a European Central Bank review on Thursday as well. We can see the Nikkei there basically stable. The Shanghai Composite up by almost 1%. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong down by 0.1%, and the Kospi in South Korea down 0.14%.
All right, let's bring things back here to France. Some economic news. The government's trying to bring in some labour reforms. And Charles, these are quite specifically what we're looking at is how negotiations for changes in the workplace can happen.
Absolutely. At the moment, representatives from a sector as a whole hold talks with bosses so that all workers in that sector have the same rights. Well, the new proposals would see bosses negotiating individually with their employees, allowing greater flexibility, but, opponents say, opening the door for employees to be exploited. Well, to see what effect this will have in real terms, let's go to a medium-sized business near Paris that employs 155 people. Alexander Aucott has this report.
This French business is hoping changes to France's labour code will help it cement its position as a world leader in precision cutting tools. Its boss says negotiating with staff without being bogged down by so much red tape would be a big help.
The priority will be to have negotiations with employees to be able to adapt our needs in terms of staffing and hours based on the activities of the company. Unfortunately, these are not fixed, so a little bit of flexibility would be helpful from time to time.
Daniel wants more flexibility, but not so much that it leads to a sudden spike in competition from other companies. The 155 employees also have doubts about the new proposals and will be following the talks closely.
It could give too much power to the companies and the bosses. And then it is us who will end up paying for it, so I don't really agree with that.
This family-run business says it's talking with staff to allay fears about the changes, but unions warn the reforms give employers too much power, meaning the workers will lose out.
Well, let's take a look now at some of the other business stories making headlines this Wednesday. Amazon.com is dropping its membership price for low-income shoppers in a direct move for Walmart's customer base. About 20% of the U.S. population, people who benefit from government assistance with cards for food stamps, will get a $5.99 monthly membership to Amazon Prime. Last year, Walmart made $13 billion in sales from these types of shoppers. Amazon has explained that low-income shoppers are a big opportunity. Australia's economy grew at 0.3% in the first quarter of 2017. This means the country has enjoyed 26 years without recession. Strong growth was recorded in finance and insurance, as well as wholesale trade and healthcare. The manufacturing sector has slipped, however, for the 10th time in 11 quarters. Year on year, Australia's economy has grown by 1.7%. That's the slowest pace of annual growth since the global financial crisis. And finally, Adnan Khashoggi, a billionaire businessman known for brokering international arms deals in the 70s and 80s, has died in London at age 82. He became one of the world's richest men and was known for his lavish lifestyle, throwing parties that often lasted for days. He most famously brokered arms deals between U.S. firms and Saudi Arabia in the 1960s and 70s, when he worked closely with the Lockheed Corporation, now Lockheed Martin. He was also no stranger to controversy. He spent time in a Swiss prison in the 1980s, accused of helping to conceal funds on behalf of former Philippines dictator Ferdinand Marcos and his wife, Imelda.
Gosh, that's quite a life story, isn't it?
Yes, and apparently while he was in prison, he was ordering some lavish dinners to be brought into his cell. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you very much for that and the rest of the business and economic news. Charles Pellegrin